nơi tôi đang sống bao lâu, ai ai cũng mến thương nhau, những con người bao đời, vui buồn cùng sát chia nhau.
Hello everybody! Welcome back to another episode of Drunk Brat. Hey, I just want to cover a fun one here today. The huge advantages of learning a language, in my case Vietnamese, at a bar. Getting drunk with a bunch of people. Okay, let me start by saying, like, every person in here in Vietnam is just fascinated. They're like, I have never once, ever met a single foreign person that has ever learned Vietnamese. Certainly not to your degree. And I just simply say, well, I don't know. A friend told me one day, if you want to learn Vietnamese, go and have coffee every morning with Vietnamese people and get drunk with old Vietnamese guys every night. Fast forward about a month, and I'm singing. Right? It's not complicated, folks. It's not complicated. In fact, it's a one-to-one correlation. Out of the thousands of people that I met out here, expats, let's just say, it's less than 1% that speak decent Vietnamese. Every time, they have coffee with Vietnamese people, and they get drunk with Vietnamese guys at night. I'm telling you, it's not that hard. Every single person that's never done that before can't speak a lick. It's a one-to-one correlation. So anyway, I just wanted to fill this in. Now I want to also be clear. Yes, I spend about 10 to 15 hours a week sitting at a bar getting drunk with old Vietnamese guys. Ton of fun. Now let's move forward a little bit. Here are the advantages of actually learning a language, in my case Vietnamese, at a bar. Okay, number one, it's fun. Okay? It's just plain fun. I mean, these people aren't at a bar because they want to, talk about work and be all depressed and eat celery sticks and, talk about religion and politics. No. They're there because they want to have fun and party with people. Yeah, it's a good time. Okay? If I got to compare, cracking open a book of some kind, doing flashcards and working an app for 4 hours, or going to a bar and getting drunk with a bunch of friends, yeah, I'm going to do that pretty much every time. Funny how that works. In fact, I pencil it in my day and it's not negotiable. So I magically get 15 hours a week of solid, hardcore conversational Vietnamese practice. Ta-da! And I don't even have to work hard to talk myself into it. Next, I did want to point out that Vietnamese people, anybody for that matter, when you're sitting around getting drunk, they just tend to talk more simply. They really do. You're not sitting there talking about opening a bank account or the subtleties of, political situations and news in the past. It's not a random topic. No, people are going to be asking you the same stuff, the same basic 5 questions. Where are you from? How you been? How do you like it here? What street do you live on? What foods do you like? And really simple stuff. And they're going to use simpler words. I mean, sure, you're going to get some slang here and there, but generally speaking, it's pretty simple A1, A2 kind of topics that are going to be coming up. So you're going to know what's going on pretty quick. So yeah, they just talk simpler. It's nice. Now, number 2, they repeat themselves. This is kind of annoying if you're an English speaker and then you're sitting there speaking English with other English people at a bar and they tell you the same story 3 times. You're like, fine, I heard it, shut up. But actually, when you're learning a language at A1, A2 level, let alone B1, B2 level, that's super handy. It's super handy they repeat themselves. Tell the same story again. Or they'll ask you a question, and then, and then you give an answer, and you pound in the answer, get the answer all dialed in. Yeah, 20 minutes later, they ask you the same question. Nice. It's a feature, my friends. That's a great thing. Yeah. If you're with some hardcore academic teacher, they're going to be topic. But now, drunk people, it's kind of the same basic 5 again and again. So that's a huge feature. And on top of that, there's a lot of people to meet. I want to be very clear. There's infinite people to meet. I mean, I can tell you, every new person that comes in is going to ask you the same questions again and again and again and again and again and again and again. If you don't have it figured out in the first 3-4 hours, sigh. Next, this is the big one. People at a bar, especially at lunchtime, 12 in the afternoon, don't give a shit if you pronounce perfectly or not. They don't care if you're perfect grammar, perfect this, perfect that. They're not there to judge. They're just happy you're swinging for the fences, right? They're the most helpful people that you're going to run across. They really are. So there's no judgmentalism. So you can just wing it. I mean, let's face it, not every time, but a third of the time, they're just wasted. And they're like, oh, I think I got what you're talking about. All right, perfect. Yeah, good man. Cheers. And if they don't understand what you just said, they're like, cheers. So it's a non-pressure environment. Now I want to bring that up because there's a big chicken and the egg problem that a lot of people have, okay? And that is, well, I don't want to go and meet Vietnamese people because I want to know the language first. I want to be very, very, very good at the language first. Then I will meet Vietnamese people, and then I will go to the bar. But in order to learn Vietnamese, I need to go to the bar and then go to the cafe and talk with Vietnamese people. But I can't because I don't know it yet. Don't know it yet because I've never been. Don't know it, so I can't go because I don't. Whoop, 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 whoop. Chicken or the egg? Who came first? Yeah, so what most people do is ignore both. Never learn any Vietnamese and never meet anybody because they're so smart. Yeah. So fast forward 3 years, can't count to 10. Yeah. In contrast, you can just say, screw it. I'm just going to go to the bar and do my best. I know how to say hello, thank you, and cheers. Great start. Good enough. So it defeats the chicken and the egg problem that a lot of people normally have. Next, let's not take this out of the equation. If you're drinking, you feel more confident. You just do. I've got a lot of my friends that won't sing karaoke. I'm not good enough. I got to sing karaoke to get good at karaoke, but I can't sing it because I'm not good at karaoke. You get the idea. But you give them 7 shots of tequila and all of a sudden, hey, give me the microphone. Ah! Yes. I've actually been teaching Vietnamese for quite some time. And meaning I've been teaching foreigners that otherwise live here. And every time we get about 1 hour in my house where I give them some prep work and the 10 basic words you need, out to the bar. And sometimes they're like overthinking things and like, this is kind of hard. I'm kind of nervous. Too many people are talking at once. By about beer number 3, they're like, and they just let it sing and just throw it out, okay? And that leads me to my next advantage. Next advantage, I don't know what number we're on. But when a person is in the bag, they tend to think a lot simpler. They really do. Because one issue with Vietnamese versus English is Vietnamese is far simpler than English. So a lot of very smart people try to take English and try to like shoehorn it into Vietnamese and have a tricky time. I mean, something simple like, in English, I would like to have another beer if I may. And let's just say they're real smart. They sit there silently, tôi sẽ muốn uống một bia nữa nếu tôi có thể uống và nếu bạn muốn mới tôi uống một bia nữa.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
But when they're drunk, they're just like, China, hey, good. That's actually exactly how you should say it in Vietnamese. Bottle more, done. Now, when they're sober, that sounds absurd. But when you're half in the bag and you can't think of all this complicated stuff, you tend to fall back on the simple. Thus, you tend to be right. So yeah. Actually, drunk Vietnamese, believe it or not, sounds ironic. I'm telling you though, folks, based on dozens of hours of experience, hundreds of hours of experience, yeah, drunk Vietnamese is simple, works, and is actually more grammatically correct, and it's even better. Next, I did want to point out the cost, okay? There's a lot of people that want to pay anywhere from $5 to $15 an hour to talk with a professional teacher. Now, of course, I'm a professional teacher that teaches Vietnamese, okay? So, but notwithstanding, I'm just telling you, if you just go to the bar, I mean, I drink about 3 beers an hour on average, okay? If I'm getting after it and shotgunning, I might be up to like 5 an hour if I'm really serious. And it might be 1 or 2 depending on the day, right? Fine. But let's say 3 an hour, okay? At $8,000 a pop, that works out 24,000 dong per hour, which actually works out to about $1.10 or so. So I spent about $1.10 in order to sit there and get coached by tons of Vietnamese people in a row. Woo! All simultaneously, all talking about the exact kind of topics that I need to learn about, all speaking the language and doing everything perfectly right. Bang. Love it. No. So it's cheaper. It's just plain cheaper to go to a bar and then learn there. Yeah. Next, I did want to point out, sure, with regards to understanding Vietnamese, let's be clear. You know, one of the problems I had with the Pimsleur series is these are professional speakers that are speaking with a perfect Hanoi accent, with their mouth 1 inch from the microphone, enunciating every possible word. Yeah, Beza, Meza, Zoe. Yeah, right. Now, in the real world, people have food in their mouth. They're smoking cigarettes, and they're taking a drink of beer at the same time while they're looking away from you and slurring their speech because they're drunk. Okay, that's real. Okay, in the real world, it's not as clear as like the tapes and CDs and whatever, right? Let alone nobody writes anything, you know, duh. So if you can get drunk at a bar and understand everybody, which naturally happens after, especially 20 hours, all of a sudden when you hear sober people that are looking directly at you, that don't have food in their mouth, that aren't smoking and sipping a beer in the meantime, it's magically clear. So, ironically enough, I can actually understand Vietnamese very, very well because I practiced with the metaphorical weights on my feet while running, right? You know, like I can understand drunk guys, so I can understand sober people real well, right? So I count that as a win. And yes, you have infinite people to meet while you're at it, so you can't beat that, right? Like if you get tired of one individual person, you run out of something to talk about, maybe let's just say you're just starting and you only have like 5 things you can say. So be it. Say those 5 things, maybe stretch to a 6th one or 7th one, and then next person. Hello. Let's say that again. Say that again. Say that again. So I take beginning students out to the bar, and many times I'm like, okay, you know the top 5 questions? Well, let's meet somebody and until we get through the top 5 questions, then stop. Meet somebody else. Top 5 questions, stop. Somebody else. Top 5 questions, again. So we can actually go and meet 10 to 20 people in the course of a couple hours doing the top 5 questions again and again and again and again and again. You got infinite people to meet, man. You know, you can't get that at like a bank, let alone just randomly walking the street, let alone randomly sitting in your house meditating on the idea that maybe I should learn Vietnamese someday, perhaps. No, you don't magically learn it, my friends. Get to a bar, get a beer in your hands, shut up. Better way, don't shut up. Start talking with people, you know, and get after it, you know? If you want to take your Vietnamese to the next level, this is how you do it. Just find yourself a dive bar, okay? Just a corner place with no white people, with tiny little plastic Barbie chairs of some kind, and sit around and get drunk with old guys. Daily. Yeah. Let that stretch to 3-4 hours a day. You're doing awesome. You'll know it in absolutely no time, you know? Now, the contrasting way of going about it is to never go to a dive bar and never get drunk with any Vietnamese people, never have coffee with any Vietnamese people, and only hang out at white places with white friends and work at a school that only encourages you to speak English and encourages you to live in a bubble, all right? And then you can live in a bubble indefinitely. And then after 3 years,
nothing.
Still can't count to 10.
You lose. Good day, sir.
I mean, choose your battles, do what you want, more power to you, but I'm telling you, it is as simple as it sounds. If you want to learn Vietnamese, go to a bar in Vietnam, have coffee with Vietnamese people in the morning, get drunk at a bar mid-afternoon and or night. Cheers!
Vì bia đậm đà, tình bạn càng thêm mặn mà. Yêu người miền Trung hiền hòa, yêu hoài vùng đất quê ta.
Vẫn giọng nói nghe trìu mến không bao giờ quên. Xứ vùng đất mang đậm nét quê hương là đây.
Miền Trung non nước hùng vĩ, con người trời đất giao hòa. Tình yêu từ mưa từ nắng, khơi dòng cảm xúc tự hào là người miền Trung.
La 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 la